Hi there, my name's Matt Warpole. I'm the resident electrician at Foundations Up, the building arm of the DIY Doctor website. Today we're going to be taking a look at this thing here, which is the Haverland Smartwave Wi7 electric radiator, and it is essentially the next generation in electric radiators within the home. And in summary, what makes this different from any other radiator of a similar kind is that this radiator, actually using a sensor, monitors your movements in and out of the room and learns your patterns and self-programs to work in conjunction with your routine. So potentially you might never need to program your heating systems again. Okay, so if we take a look at the radiator in a little bit more detail, you'll notice it's actually a fairly sort of simple design with the white panels, and it's fairly understated, and for good reason. It looks good that way. But we'll take a little bit more of a look at the control panel here and just explain what some of the basic features are. Firstly, we've got a simple manual on-off switch, which does exactly what it says on the tin. We have the sensor here, which is this little round bubble in the corner. We've obviously explained this is a vital part of how the radiator works in terms of monitoring the movement of people in and out of the room. We've then got a series of lights. Firstly, we've got this lone light here above the digital display. That's known as the pilot light, and then there are 4 other lights down the side, and these lights flash and change colour to show you visually what the radiator is doing, i.e. what mode it is in, and we'll come on to the modes a bit further down the line. But for now, just be aware that they are there and that's what they're for. The digital display, as I've mentioned, shows the ambient temperature of the room that the radiator is in, not the temperature of the radiator itself. Make a note of that. And also at the bottom then we've got some up and down arrows, and what they are for is for when you are, or if you wanted to, you can manually program the radiator at the control panel using the up and down arrows. But being a smart radiator and something that works with Wi-Fi technology, it is intended that this is best used with the Smartwave application, so that actually you can program and set the radiator or several radiators up from your smart device or tablet, and we'll go on to that a little bit more in due course. So to use the Smartwave heater most effectively, one of the additions to the radiator is the i2 Control Smart Box. And what the Smart Box does, or what it allows, is the radiator to speak to your phone or tablet via the internet, and it's a simple device that plugs in to your wireless router. Once you've connected the smart box to your wireless router, you can then download the Haverland app via the Apple App Store or Google Play to suit your particular device. Once you've downloaded the app, you can begin using it. And when you select the app and turn it on, you'll be greeted with this screen. Now, the icon you can see there represents the heater that we're using behind us, but we've already set that up in advance. But you can actually use this to set up multiple heaters. So if you've got several of these in your house, you will have an icon for each of them. Now, as I said, ours is already set up, but should you need to add an extra heater, you simply follow the instructions on the screen. So click Install, click Heater, and then start a search using the app. And in a sort of Bluetooth kind of way, the app will then search the surrounding area and pick up your additional heater or heaters, and then you simply follow the prompts to essentially connect the two together. But if we click on the particular icon, it brings us into a screen that gives us some more information about the radiator and some buttons that will allow us to control and set it up and get it working the way we want it to. So The first thing we can see is there is the temperature gauge across the top, which can be adjusted manually using your finger or the plus and minus arrows. That is the temperature that applies to each of the individual temperature modes, which we'll talk about in more detail. The temperature display below that says now, that is the ambient temperature of the room, which corresponds with the ambient temperature display on the radiator itself. And so below that then we've got a collection of buttons that are sort of very important for the operation of the heater. First of all, we've got the two blue buttons. The padlock simply allows you by pressing it to lock the keypad, or sorry, the control panel on the radiator itself, so that once that's locked you can't physically edit anything on the radiator itself. But we'll keep it unlocked just so that the displays correspond while we're going through the application. And then you've also got a simple on-off button that allows you to remotely switch the heater on and off like so. Then there are the 6 buttons on the grey bar below. The 3 on the left correspond to the 3 temperature settings that the radiator operates at, and the 3 on the right hand side correspond with the different modes that the radiator operates in when switching on and off. So you'll notice from the home screen for our particular radiator that we're using that we've given the radiator a name. We've called it Office Radiator. This is particularly important if you've got multiple radiators working from the one app, so that you know which particular one you're controlling. So we're going to take a look at the 6 buttons on the grey bar at the bottom of the screen on the app, and these are essentially the 6 sort of key features of the radiator that make it unique and make it work in the way that it's designed to. The first 3 icons on the left correspond to the 3 temperature settings that the radiator operates at, and there are 3 icons: a sun, a moon and a snowflake. Now we've got the sun icon selected, and you'll see that when that is selected, the pilot light on the radiator displays red, and that denotes that the radiator is currently in its comfort setting. Okay, so if we press the next icon in the line, which is the moon, you will notice that immediately on pressing that, the pilot light then displays green, and that denotes that we are in the next temperature setting, which is the economy. The idea is that the economy temperature is slightly less than the comfort temperature, i.e. a sort of resting temperature that the comfort temperature can then heat up from. And it's recommended that it's around about 8 degrees lower than the comfort temperature, and it should definitely never be more than the comfort temperature, because then obviously then it won't work in the natural order of things. And finally, when we select the snowflake icon, you'll notice that the pilot light displays blue, and that shows that we are in anti-frost setting. And the idea of this is that if you are away for a long period of time, or the room or the radiator is inactive for a period of time, the radiator maintains a very low ambient temperature to ensure basically that your pipes don't freeze and that frost can't build up inside a room on the inside of your glass and so on. But the only thing to note is that the anti-frost temperature is set at 7 degrees Celsius, and it can't be manually changed using the slider or the plus and minus arrows. Okay, so we'll now take a look at the 3 buttons on the right hand side of the grey bar, and these are the 3 different modes that the heater will operate in. And the first icon is a brain, funnily enough, and that's because when selected, the heater is now in learning mode. And what that means is that the sensor on the control panel is now active, and it is picking up movement in and out of the room. But what makes this heater particularly unique is that it doesn't just come on and off in response to movement. It also learns and remembers the pattern of movement, the time at which it occurred, and begins to develop its own program based on your movements and your routines within the room. Now, if we move to the next icon in the row, which is the running man, you'll notice that that light on the right hand side now goes into a solid state, and it is now in what's known as sensor mode, and it's kind of it's a simplified version of learning mode. The sensor is still working, it's still picking up movement, and the radiator will come on and off according to that movement. The difference is it's not going to remember, in this mode it doesn't remember any of that information, so it's just reactive, a bit like how a sensor light might work outside your house. You walk underneath it, the sensor picks you up, the light comes on, you walk away, and after a while the light goes off. If you've got the radiator in learning mode or sensor mode, it will react in a similar way. It's just whether the information is retained or not is the basic difference between those two. So when movement is detected, the radiator will immediately jump to the comfort setting and begin heating the radiator up to the maximum sort of predetermined temperature. Now, after a period of 30 minutes of inactivity, the radiator will automatically then revert to the economy setting. So it will essentially turn off and allow itself to cool down to the economy temperature, which again you've preset using the application. And then if the radiator was left for a further period of 12 hours on economy setting with no activity, it would drop down to the anti-frost mode. And that ensures that during long periods of inactivity, you're not wasting money and energy having a heater running that's not heating anything for your benefit. And equally, if you're in and out of a room, the room is kept at a reasonable temperature so that when you do come in, the heater hasn't got to expend lots of energy and therefore lots of money heating up to that maximum temperature. The final button on the grey bar allows you to select a schedule mode, and in doing so you can pre-program the heater's activities hour by hour, day by day. Okay, so that is the Haverland Wi7 Smartwave heater and how to use it with the smart box and the Haverland app. And it's very much the future of how heating is going to be in the home, with interactive appliances, but also with the ability to control it remotely using an application. The idea of the product ultimately is so that we are not wasting money heating a room that we're not in and that we're not using.